revolutionary act. Welcome to the Objective Podcast with your host, Jay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Headlines series. I'm your host, Jay, and this is The Objective. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the 13th episode of the Let's Talk Headlines series. Now, before we get into the show, I want you guys to be sure to check out www.politicalstorm.com. You can find some of my content as well as a bunch of other great content creators. I'm sure there'll be something that you guys like. Now's the time to support independent media. So do yourself a favor and me a favor by visiting www.politicalstorm.com. If you don't follow me on Instagram, be sure to check out my Instagram page at The Objective Podcast. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I appreciate the support that I've received thus far, and hit that like button too if you do appreciate and like the content. Now, moving into the story of today. Most of you obviously have probably heard by now, Easter Sunday was not only a day of remembrance for Christian worshipers, it was also a day of tragedy, and it is a day that will be marked by tragedy in Sri Lanka specifically. There was a coordinated attack. Extremist groups have taken responsibility for this attack, but about 5 coordinated attacks in Sri Lanka that left over 300 people dead and hundreds injured. It was a bombing attack as people were going in with their families to observe this day of remembrance in their faith and their religious practices. Going in with your family, your community, your friends, women, young children, just families in general, were going into their churches to observe this day, remembering, the day that Christ rose. And for some reason, these deranged extremists and radicals found it beneficial to their ideals and their ideology to enter these churches with these worshipers, and with no regard for their own lives and absolutely no regard for the lives of those around them, they decided to detonate suicide vests. Again, killing over 300 people and injuring and maiming, giving people life-altering injuries, not thousands, but hundreds of people. This is not a one-off occurrence. This is not a rare occurrence either. As a matter of fact, in Muslim majority countries, Christians are massacred regularly by the hundreds. And there, at first, I just want to give my, condolences. My heart and my thoughts and my prayers are going out to the families affected. There are people in Canada who have family that were affected, who were killed in that attack. So the tentacles and the reach of this attack touches many people. There were Americans that were in those churches as well that were killed. So this affects not only Sri Lanka, it heavily affects Sri Lanka, but it does affect other places in the world who have connection to the people that were there. Now, there was some, not memes, but there were some, on social media, there is this topic going around. Well, Obama and Hillary and Ilhan Omar, they refused to say that Christians were the victim to this attack. Instead, they used the word Easter worshipers. Now, it didn't bother me. The reason it didn't bother me is because I don't expect much from, a group. Oh, the door. Oh, here we go. Okay, hold on, boy. Hold on. Taro's always on duty. Hold on, guys. Sorry about that, guys. What was I saying? Pretty much, I don't expect the progressive left. I don't expect Democrats who would rather have God or Jesus or any mention of those names, those words, and the principles and ideals that go along with them to be outside and not connected with government. And that's fair. I don't expect them to have a love for Christianity. I'm not saying they hate Christians. I'm not saying anything like that. All they said was Easter worshipers. They didn't say Christians. I've never heard of Easter worshipers, and it's not only this instance. There are times, it's very telling what people do say, but also what they don't say, what they refuse to say. It's very telling. And when there's a pattern, then people can deduce and make their, educated opinions and assumptions. Now, at the end of the day, that I feel that whole thing is kind of sidestepping and distracting from the fact that there are, a multitude of Christians that are killed regularly for their beliefs in these other countries. And it's another reason why, I just love the West. And I love the fact that, we have the ability, if you're a Christian, you can go to church on the day that you choose to observe. You can worship your God. If you're a Muslim, whatever you are, if you're a Buddhist, if you're a Sikh, you have that right to do that and to exercise that right to worship. That's awesome, but it's not the case in many other countries that are not the West. So, at the end of the day, like I said, I don't expect much from, politicians, especially on the left. That's not a dig at Democrats or whatever. There are Christians that identify as Democrats. But on a whole, and generally speaking, Democrats are for things that are directly against the precepts and ideals of a traditional Christian as dictated by the Bible. So, there are people who are, getting upset at Obama and getting upset at Hillary because they didn't say Christians. They said Easter worshipers. Do you really want people to just say something because it is expected they say it or to appease a certain group? No, I don't think anyone wants that. You want genuine people. You want the truth. You want people to be truthful. If Bernie Sanders says that he wants to tax people, or if AOC or Bernie Sanders say they want to tax people at 70%, 50 or 70%, at least they're being honest, and there's something to be said about that. Whether that policy is something that is plausible or that will work is another argument altogether, and it's a discussion that needs to be had, right? We need to be happy when people are being honest about their intention. So that's what I'll take away from that. Instead of saying, "Oh, you didn't say the word, you didn't say Christian, how could you?" We don't want to police speech. Conservatives, we are completely, I'll speak for myself, I'm completely against policing speech. Obviously, if your speech is promoting death and destruction to another group of people based on X, Y, and Z, that's not a part of free speech. Okay. But if your speech is unpopular, but it's not advocating for violence, then you should have the right to say it. And you dispute this speech, and you debate and, challenge this speech with other ideas, not with violence. Oh my goodness. Like, this stuff you just feel should be common. I'm not a genius by any stretch of the imagination. Very normal, average, I hope to say, I hope I'm average, guy who just, has a love for people, has a love for democracy, has a love for freedom. And, that's what it is. That's what it is. So I think I'll come to the end here. I don't want to hold you guys much longer than this, but I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Let's Talk Headlines series. Make it your goal to be objective. Have a good night.